The COVID-19 pandemic and the situation surrounding it has been the subject of numerous scientific studies, and understandably so, considering its novel effect on society, health-wise and otherwise. One such study by Pellegrini et al. Noted that the lockdowns due to the pandemic, particularly in the United States, may have influenced the mental and physical well-being of individuals, particularly with respect to weight management. Thus, the objective behind their study was to observe the association between mental well-being and weight management behaviors of adults that were participating in an online weight management program during the pandemic. The researchers then created a method to test this association. In terms of experimental design, to standardize things, all participants were solely enrolled in the Dial Now trial, a weight loss program, and they were given a goal of 1, cutting 10% of their initial body weight, 2, a daily calorie intake goal, and 3, a weekly exercise minute goal. When the lockdowns were effected in the states of Massachusetts and Rhode Island particularly, a survey was sent out to qualifying participants, of which 99 people responded, which is the sample size. Although the sample size included individuals of a number of different strata, it is worth noting that 79% of participants were female and 91% were white. As for other key characteristics, the mean age was around 52.2 years, and the baseline BMI was around 34 kilograms per meter squared. Using this sample size, researchers could make an inference about the population. So, the researchers conducted a linear regression to test the association between the predictor variable stress on a scale of 1 to 7, with 7 being the most stressed, and a number of different response variables, including participant characteristics, additional psychological effects from COVID-19, and weight management. So to test for significance, the researchers set the significance level at 0.05. Now, post-study, there were a number of different findings. Some of the key highlights include the fact that 60.1% of participants were very to extremely concerned about COVID, with a further 40.1% saying that their life had been extremely impacted by the pandemic. These proportions were backed up by the regression analysis, where there were significant positive associations between stress and a bevy of concerning effects, including having mental well-being being negatively impacted. This was at a p-value of less than 0.001. Furthermore, stress levels were positively associated with BMI at a significance of 0.04. During the survey period as well, 73% and 70% of participants stated that it was hard to stay on track with eating and exercise habits, respectively. This was reflected in the regression analysis, as stress was associated with having less time to dedicate to weight loss efforts at a p-value of 0.02, as well as being associated with difficulties on staying on track with eating habits at a p-value of 0.03, without controlling for education and BMI, of course. While it is worth noting that the researchers did not find many other associations between stress and other weight loss behavior, there are some important conclusions that can still be gained from this data, especially when considering pre-existing research as well. For instance, the research study suggested that high stress levels are associated with struggles in weight control and hindering mental health, and that is consistent with other research in the field, such as by Cardell et al. This is despite the fact that individuals were still, by the data, in agreement that exercise should be conducted during the pandemic. Researchers note that this is a problem, as individuals who enroll in weight management programs, as in the study, are typically already at an increased risk of being affected by the pandemic. Thus, one of the subjects that the researchers suggested should be considered during further studies is the association between the reduction in weight control behavior, which was found to be consistent with high stress and hindered mental health, and having obesity. An interesting corollary as well of the study was that researchers found a positive association between stress levels and having school-aged children at home, significant at a p-value of 0.002. They encourage further studies on this as well to further explore this trend. But with all of this said, there are a few limitations to the study. For instance, take the fact that not only was the sample size rather small at 99 people, but it was a convenient sample and not a random sample. So the participants' views on the influence of the pandemic on them may not truly be representative of the population. Furthermore, the researchers note the possibility of recall bias playing a role in coloring the participants' views on their feelings before the pandemic. As well, the survey did use some rather subjective measures, such as the people's own opinions, to consider weight loss, rather than empirically measuring the weight and physical activity of the participants. Still, taking these limitations for what they are, the study still may provide some insight into the association between stress caused by the pandemic and a number of responses that we talked about earlier, including greater levels of anxiety and worry, and less time for weight management efforts for those for whom weight loss is truly desired. And for this reason, this study can still be rather important in the whole grand scheme of things.